in my office.
That would be amazing. I'd like we could do it live on the air. Come on. Let's go.
That would be good.
If I ever get a tattoo, it'll be
Bobby's ready to go. Let's do it in the office, right? I mean, during the show, we're going to get a tattoo. David, you've inspired trouble.
I'll design one for you, Brian.
I'll pass out like Johnson Bowie.
Exactly.
David, thanks for your phone call from Virginia. We've got to take a break here on Pastor's Perspective, but we'll be back with more of your questions. What do you want to ask us? 888-564-6173 is the number to call from now till 4 p.m. Pacific time. 888-564-6173. Can you back that up, Bobby? I think Bobby just put a picture on YouTube of what... no, back it up. Back it up.
Can't see all
back it up.
Like back it up, Bobby. Back. Oh.
Okay, we'll have to see it after the break.
No, we can't see it.
And we'll be right back. 888-564-6173. We're back on Pastor's Perspective. Thank you so much for joining us on the radio or on Facebook or YouTube. Maybe you're listening on a podcast. Thank you very much. There's so many ways to listen nowadays and to watch too. But we'd love to hear from you. Get your questions at 888-564-6173. I'm Brian Perez here with Brian Broderson, Bobby Conway, and Dr. Ed Stetzer, all ready to answer your questions at 888-564-6173. So, Bobby, let's see that photo now, or the drawing that you did of the tattoo that you think Brian should get.
No, I was saying I could do a tattoo for Brian because I was just sitting here doodling.
Turn it at a 45-degree angle so people on YouTube... No, don't move it up. Turn it at a 45-degree angle from the camera, and we can see it. That's not a 45-degree angle. That's the opposite of a 45-degree. Turn it to the... No, you're turning... Like
kind of like this.
There it is. There it is.
Yeah, it's perfect.
That's pretty good.
Wow.
That's pretty good. You drew that, huh? Like everyone on radio is like, are you people idiots? It's literally, we can't see the drawing.
It's a picture of me. That's great. I look pretty good.
That was a picture of you?
Yeah.
That's what I
thought it was Brad Pitt.
No, it's...
Well, we get mistaken for the
very
same
common
all the time.
I can see that.
Yes.
I can see that.
I texted it to you, Brian. It's got some proportion work that I'm still...
Brian's strength is not texting, so we'll see.
fixing,
He never responds to my text.
What? Come on.
All right, so let's answer another question that was sent in online. This one is something else that Pastor Brian recently said.
This is pretty much, Brian, would you please clarify everything you said publicly?
Yes. Okay, so this is from CJ. Recently, Brian answered a question from a father regarding his daughter getting married to her girlfriend. The father stated he knew it was a sin against God and refused to walk her down the aisle as she requested. He was confused whether attending was proper in God's eyes. Brian responded and said there's not one answer, that everyone's situation is different. However, isn't there actually one real answer according to God's word? Isn't the ceremony itself a sin against God? Isn't attending, supporting, or participating in it the same as going with your child to the insurance company while they fill out a false claim, or driving them to a parking lot while they steal a car? Isn't encouraging, participating, and supporting our loved ones in any sin, including same-sex marriage, go against God and considered a sin? Doesn't that make us complicit in their sin because we are afraid they won't feel loved or supported? The call genuinely confused me, knowing God's word the way that I do. Would that not also confuse so many others?
I don't think that was a question. I think that was a statement of their view.
Sounded like it. Yeah, there were a few question marks.
Yeah, there are question marks in there to make it sound like a question, but I think that was a statement of their view.
Yes.
CJ does, and I'm not looking for controversy or argument by asking this. I have much confusion since that call. I can't find anything in the Bible that supports what Brian said by showing up for an act of sin.
I think it's one of the great questions of our day that people are talking about all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, there's not one size fits all here. Jesus showed up at places that I think clearly people in his day, and especially religious leaders, did not think he should be there, did not approve of him being there. Jesus associated with people that were considered by the religious leaders of the day to be people that you should never associate with if you were a truly godly person. And so I think looking at the model of Jesus, and I've made this clear so many times, I disagree that going to such a wedding, if you feel inclined to, I disagree that it's necessarily supporting it. So some say if you're there, you're supporting it regardless. You're approving it regardless. I disagree. I don't think so, because the people that I know that have actually gone into situations like this, it has been crystal clear up front to the person that's actually getting married that the person coming does not approve. And nevertheless, they are coming for other reasons. So I'll tell just a really quick story that might shed a little bit of light on it. Maybe it won't help at all. But I have a friend whose daughter was married or got married to another woman. She wrestled, her and her husband wrestled with what they should do. In the end, godly people, wonderful, just amazing folks, really dear to my heart. They wrestled with what they should do. In the end, they felt like the Lord was leading them to go and just to be there. This is her daughter. She doesn't approve. Her daughter knows she doesn't approve. She's a Christian. She shared the gospel with her, so on and so forth. She goes, she gets married. She gets married to this woman. They invite them over to the house. They have them over to just feed them dinner and enjoy time with them, build a relationship. Not too long into the marriage, the daughter is diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. Mm. And within a short period of time, she dies. Mm. And during this period of time, because of the connection that was made by her mother attending the wedding and then following up on that, she was able to minister to her daughter all the way through the rest of her life and lead her to the Lord in the end, and also plant a seed in the life of the same-sex partner that, of course, lost their partner. So, when I hear stories like that and I know people, I think, well, I don't, this is why I believe that the Spirit of God, now some people would say, and of course we know that there are pastors who would say this is black and white, crystal clear. Sure. There is no.
I mean, when Alistair Begg said something similar,
yeah.
It ended up all over the news, and radio stations pulled his program, and everything else. Yeah.
Yeah. So some people think it's black and white, crystal clear. I just don't see it that way. So if you agree, fine. If you don't agree, that's okay too.
I don't see it the same way you do, and that, like you said, that's okay. I would say that if you do see it the way you do, one of the caveats you put in there is that you did say that the person knew where the person stood on these issues, and I think that's important
in every case.
And I think that's important to it. But I'd come to a different conclusion. I wouldn't go. But I understand.
And I'm not saying I would go.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that I don't think that you can just just blanketly
across the
say
board, make it
absolutely.
It's an individual conscience decision.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, where I think Alistair Begg, surprised a lot of people when he said, "I would tell her to go to the wedding and bring a gift."
Yeah,
but he did say all those caveats as well. That
right.
Like a lot of these things right now, we're kind of dealing with a lot of confusion about sexuality and gender in our culture.
Yeah.
And people are asking, how do I build bridges?
Right.
And do I, in this case, go to a gay wedding, or might be use pronouns, preferred pronouns, things of that sort. And though my conclusions are probably on the more conservative side on those things, if your conclusions are less so, I would say make sure that people know where you are and why you're doing those things if you're doing them, because that kind of gets part of his question is like are you saying you don't approve but you want to stay in relationship with that person?
Yeah, and I mean that is sometimes people are framing it that way, that I'm afraid that I'll lose their friendship or whatever. Right. Now, of course, we know already that in some cases, for the gospel's sake, you are going to lose relationships. Sure. But I just don't know that this is a gospel issue like that. And I think, too, if you take I think there has been a tendency, we've talked about this many times before, Bobby, we've talked about it a lot. I do think there is a tendency to take homosexuality, and among Christians, there has been a tendency to take it and put it sort of in a category by itself of sin. I like to tell this story because it's funny, but I had a lady come up to me after church one day a few years ago, and she owns a business, and she inadvertently hired a gay person. And after the person began to work for her and so forth, discovered that the person was gay. And she comes to me and she's very distressed about this and she doesn't know what to do. And so as I listened to her, I said, okay, let me ask you this question. Do you have any other sinners that work for you? And she just started laughing because she obviously at that point she realized, okay, what she was doing is she was taking one sin and kind of putting it in a category by itself, excluding it from other sins. So I think that's a tricky thing. That's where we have to be careful. So if I say absolutely 100% under no condition can a person attend a wedding like this, well, okay, let's talk about other weddings. Let's talk about people who are non-believers getting married. Let's talk about a professing Christian getting married to a Buddhist or to
a non-Christian, which would be unequally yoked,
yeah.
which we know is not right.
So there's a whole bunch of factors here, I think, that need to be taken into consideration. And again, I'm not saying, yes, go do it. I'm saying you need to seek the Lord based upon His word and the conviction that the Spirit gives you. And going back to the story I told of my friend, I would, with hindsight now, I would look and see it seemed like the Lord, led them into that situation. So,
okay, Bobby, go ahead.
The only thing I would add is, and Ed as a missiologist would know this, and Brian, you would too. I mean, there are situations where you have missionaries go into a particular milieu to do ministry, and it's a polygamous culture per se. And they're met with, well, what do we do in this situation? Like, okay, the person gets saved. Do they just tell the person, well, pick which one you want to keep and send the rest off? Or do they, recognize, we're going to work with this situation while, anybody that wants to get married moving forward, we're going to lay out what biblical marriage is. So I think that without answering the question here, I do think that those that are young, that are growing up in this culture, they're going to be met with a whole host of questions that the decisions that are being shaped in our culture right now, they're going to have to think through this in a missional way, what that means, where they're not compromising the gospel, where they're figuring out what they can do, what they cannot do. And this gets tricky. Now, I'm not, saying that it's the same thing. I'm just giving an example of other contexts when people show up to do missions, they're met with some questions that they weren't used to in our own culture. And so I think what's happening a little bit is because so much is new in our culture, there's a lot of differences of opinion with pastors as far as the approach of going or not going, but it doesn't mean that there's not alignment with a lot of these pastors on what a biblical marriage is. They're just trying to figure out how to keep people open to the gospel.
CJ, thank you for sending in your question online. Now let's go back to the phones at 888-564-6173. Michelle in Fullerton, welcome to Pastor's Perspective. You're on with Brian Broderson, Bobby Conway, and Dr. Ed Stetzer.
Hi, pastors.
Hi.
My question is, I was watching an interview with a famous person, and they were talking to the interviewer, and then the interviewer pointed out clearly he had regretted. So this person sold their soul to the devil so that they could be famous and, rich, and they became famous and they became rich, and now their career is, they're a little bit older and stuff, and they truly regret that they did that. Now, once you do that, the devil always lies to us. Once you do that, does he have a chance for God to forgive him?
Pastor Brian?
Well, you're giving me all the fun questions today.
These have not been it's not like, well, the tattoo one was fun. The tattoo one was fun. Let's go back to the tattoo one, though.
Yeah.
All right, so good.
Well, yeah. Think about it this way. The short answer is, wait, what is the short answer? Is it yes or no? I mean, he can be forgiven. That is the short answer.
If that's what you believe. But you don't have a tattoo, so how do you know?
Yeah. But think about this. Everybody, this is what the Bible says. It's shocking to some people. Everybody is actually under the control of the devil unless you are the possession of Jesus Christ. So the whole world lies in the grasp of the wicked one, the Apostle John tells us. And it's the spirit. The spirit of disobedience is now working in, or the spirit of the world is now working in the children of disobedience. So the whole world lies in the grip of the wicked one. You come out from the grip of the wicked one when you come to faith in Jesus. He pulls you out of the kingdom of darkness and transfers you into the kingdom of light. So the idea that you're going to somehow sell your soul to the devil and that's an irrevocable thing, I don't think you could support that biblically. Jesus is the one who paid for your soul. So he's the one ultimately who is able to redeem it, having paid the price for it. So I don't believe that it is an irrevocable situation, if it's even possible in the first place.
Co-sign with Pastor Brian Broderson.
Yes.
Michelle, thank you for calling in with your question here on Pastor's Perspective at 888-564-6173. And now we go to Dean in Huntington Beach, California. Hi there, Dean.
Hi, guys. My question is, does Satan have access to our dreams, or do all dreams come from God?
Let's ask the Dean. Dean, what do you say to the Dean?
I don't think all dreams come from God. I think
I'm absolutely certain they don't.
Yeah, you've had some dreams that aren't from the Lord.
Many, most.
Most. I think dreams come from our subconscious. But I think the question is important. So I do think that yes. I mean, if let's do it. And this, excuse me, Dean. This may be a little bit of a roundabout route to get to your question, but if you're right now in a difficult situation and Satan has been discouraging you and just been beat down by that, I imagine that's going to be reflected in your dreams. So is it possible for Satan to get into your dreams? I think that's probably yes. But at the same time, I would say that there's not like this direct channel where Satan can get into our brain and minds, where I do think the Lord can do. I think God does speak at times through dreams.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I don't think that's the same way that Satan has intervened into our sleeping hours in the same way. But I think ultimately that dreams generally come from our subconscious, the things we're struggling with that are on our mind, and those certainly can be influenced by the struggles of our day, the satanic impulses and influence in our lives.
Or they come from places where God only knows where they come from, because what was I even dreaming
I
about?
have some really weird dreams sometimes.
I do too.
I dreamed one time that I was a car. And I'm like, what in the world? Like, how am I a car? I woke up.
What is in your subconscious?
I don't even know.
How'd you dream that you
I
were a
can't
car?
imagine. I can't imagine. So
What kind of car were you?
I don't even know. But I have the weirdest dreams. Like, I have very vivid dreams. A lot of times I'm flying. Not in an airplane, but like physically flying.
Superman.
I have dreams sometimes I'm a musician. Maybe that's a secret yearning. I used to play guitar.
I could see that in your future, though, Ed.
You can see me flying?
I could see you flying. Yeah.
Flying? That's true. That's true. All right.
You could be a musician, too. You've got the tattoos.
I do play guitar. So, did you know I play guitar?
I did know that
Every
because
church
I
planter
heard you
plays
play guitar.
Where'd you hear me play guitar?
At Moody Church.
Oh, I was doing a sermon once, and I grabbed the guitar in a sermon and led them in a song. So that's true. That's like I was wearing a suit and tie. That was Moody Church days. I was the interim pastor. Those of you who don't know, I was the interim pastor of a church in Chicago called the Moody Church. And I was a little bit of I was 4 years as the interim, but I was a little out of the norm for Moody Church interims or pastors. So one time I did pick up the guitar and sang a song.
I saw that. I
love that you were watching my sermons at the Moody Church. Thank you for that. Because I've been watching your sermons at Calvary Chapel.
Did you know I play guitar too?
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I've never watched you play guitar.
Yeah, well, I haven't picked one up and played in front of the church.
Ever? I did in front of thousands. Like I lifted up in front of thousands of people and played the guitar. So.
Yeah, I'll show you some pictures of my old band.
So what's the answer to this question, though? So what, Bobby, what do you think? Is it possible for Satan to get into dreams, or all dreams come from God?
Well, I think that could be what would be a false dichotomy. I mean, it can be a number of things, and you've already alluded to it. So, could a dream come from God? Yes. Could a dream come from Satan? Is it always God or Satan? No. It could be, our own life, our subconscious. And Freud was big on this. Freud had a lot of things that were, out in left field, but one of the things that, he was very much into was the subconscious and drawing that out and trying to tap into what's going on there. And so I do think that God used dreams in the Bible. We see with different characters. I am not somebody that can think of any dreams that I've had except one where I've wondered, was God trying to give me a warning through a dream? And I found myself just really frustrated and angry, and I drove off a cliff, and my family was in the car.
Oh my!
And we were going through a tough season in parenting, and Dawson and I were having all kinds of conflict, and this was just one of these seasons where I just wondered when I woke up, like, Bobby, you need to stay poised in your parenting because, anger can lead to bad things. And, I never got violent with my son, but at the same token, the dream was scary because, you just realize that, you're driving in a car. I found myself fearful. What if we got in an argument and I just swung the car into some, traffic or drove into something? So I took that very seriously to just really do my best to pay attention to how my emotions were getting worked up in parenting because I was going through a season with my son that I didn't know how to parent him in. And I just felt at a total loss. And so I would just resort to, anger and get in the flesh and, act stupid and, get childish. And I think the Lord was just trying to say, you know what, you need to grow up here. You need to be careful.
That's cool.
And I think that I took that as a response and a rebuke from the Lord. But outside of that, hey, I don't know.
Have you had a dream, Ed, that you say the Lord, this was definitely something the Lord gave me?
I think so. I don't remember off the top of my head that there was some interaction that led to a significant life change, but I'm pretty sure. I mean, they're just not he had a specific example, but I didn't have a dream and move to California and come to Biola or something. But yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think so. I kind of feel like I should have one to remember, but I don't. But I mean, it does. I'm guessing that's just pretty normal. You have a dream, the Lord uses it in your life.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
And in the next segment, I'm going to think of it and just blurt it out.
Well, if you join us next week, you can tell us. We'll just ask the Lord to give you a dream in the next week.
I had a dream about a tattoo once. And I didn't. Just coming back to the theme.
Really quick, for the uninitiated, tell us about Moody Church. Why is it called Moody Church? Is it a bunch of sad people?
Because sometimes they're happy.
Okay,
sometimes they're sad.
I just always thought that name was
Moody
an interesting.
Church,
I know why.
Why it is.
I know why, but there's some people listening.
So, because my daughters used to think it was the funniest thing. They would be they were teenagers at the time, and they're like, "So you're going to Moody Church? Are they going to be sad today? Are they going to be happy today?" So the executive pastor of Moody Church, his daughter lives in Southern California, so they could be listening right now because he's here. She's having a baby, and mom and dad are here. They're our good friends, the Birchies, and. But D.L. Moody, of course, is it was called Illinois Street Church. When D.L. Moody died, they changed the name to the Moody Church. And so it's named after D.L. Moody. And it's named after the same person as Moody Bible Institute. But they are separate organizations in the same town, both founded by the great evangelist, D.L. Moody, one of the great evangelists of our day. And it was fascinating to be the interim pastor of the church that he started.
Yeah.
He was never the pastor of, which is always interesting to people. He never considered himself a pastor. But it was fascinating there. But I was there for 4 years which is longer. I was the interim pastor of Moody Church for longer than 4 of the actual pastors of Moody Church were pastors of Moody Church.
Wow.
Because, after a very well-known pastor, there's usually someone who lasts 18 months, and then they get another one. But so Erwin Lutzer is now pastor emeritus, but, Harry Ironside was there, Warren Wiersbe was there. Just
all these names.
Yeah, and so you'd be proud of me. I wore a suit and tie.
Ellen Redpath.
Ellen Redpath. I don't know how many you know. Like you can go down there. It's like amazing list.
Yeah, it is amazing. Yeah. I forgot that. I mean, Wiersbe. I forgot Wiersbe. I mean, he would have been the most recent. And from Ironside and
from that year. Ironside would be before Wiersbe for sure. Yeah.
So it's not just a church with a bunch of emo people.
Wow, that is that you've really updated that in significant ways with the emo. So.
I think we have time for one more. Joanna in Orange County, what's your question for us today?
Hey, pastors, is it okay or is it for a Christian to practice yoga? I was in a Bible study this week, and the conversation came up, and it got really interesting because they said that we have to be careful and cautious to practice yoga because of its origins, like with the Hinduism and the whole meditation component.
Maybe it matters, does this Christian have tattoos? Because if a Christian with tattoos can do yoga.
In asking the question, she gave the answer. Because I think that, yoga has Hindu origins. We know that. But most people who practice yoga are doing it for exercise.
Yep.
And so what I would say is, if you're in a yoga situation where it's a lot more than that, I would be concerned. Mm-hmm. But again, I think it's the caution of that as well.
Yeah, and most yoga in the Western world is not that these days. Most of it is exercise. It's stretching and all of that. So if they want you to chant and do things like that, then you say, well, I'll just pray or I'll sing a praise song or something like that.
Or don't participate if it's all Hindu.
Yeah.
Don't participate.
But even, this question has been asked about martial arts as well because they have their origin in the East and, some of that. So if you stay away from the spiritual side of it, you're fine. If you use it strictly as a means of exercise and yes, you can breathe in and breathe out and do something.
You're for breathing. That's a plus.
Yeah, because, you have to breathe in order to exercise.
Good. Yeah. It's helpful. Thank you for that bold advice.
Oh, good. I can take a deep breath now. Bobby Conway, what say you?
Yeah, I was just
Bobby
going to
has
say,
his
I know
yoga
that
pants
when
on,
Ed
actually, right
practices
now.
the downward dog, he makes sure that he focuses on his deep breathing as well, and he plays with rocks and all that good stuff. So, yes.
I don't even know what these things are, the downward dog. I'm pretty sure that's a yoga pose, right? See, this is what happens. This is what he goes off to North Carolina. He gets tattoos, gets his hair all frizzy, and now he knows what yoga poses are. So we know what Bobby's doing.
Hey, well, yeah, we know your Gen Z language.
No cap. No cap. Got some Riz.
Got some Riz.
That is all the time we have on today's program. Thank you for joining us live on the radio and on Facebook and YouTube. Today's episode will be archived on Facebook and YouTube and Spotify as well a little bit later on. Don't forget, we have a baptism coming up this Sunday at Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa, right after second service. You can get all the details at cccm.com. Yep, indeed. For Brian Broderson, Bobby Conway, and Dr. Ed Stetzer, the Dean at the Talbot School of Theology at Biola University, thank you for joining us today. I'm Brian Perez. God bless you. Pastor's Perspective was sponsored by Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa.